the world, and the golden age unfurled. O Elohim, to us on high, compass our earth, the sea and sky. Awake the world from its long night, help us ascend by God's great light.
Hearken unto us. I am that I am. We are the Elohim of the watch, and we are the point of origination of the great silent watchers who went forth in the beginning to establish the coordinates of the creation. As those causal bodies of our witness would reflect this immaculate vision of the Lord God Almighty for all that he hath made. Therefore the office of the great silent watchers prevails, and it is the silence of the inner Holy of Holies whereby the outer manifestation is sustained. Therefore know, O children of the sun, sons and daughters of the god star Sirius, know that the fallen ones who separated out of the company of the Lord's hosts did go forth to nullify those centers of light, and therefore they are called the watchers, for their original assignment was to keep the flame of the immaculate concept for all life. Therefore know that they have set up in the matter sphere their stations, so realistically unveiled before you in the very centers of Soviet espionage activities, in their centers throughout the world, in their embassies, and wherever they have deemed it essential to their total worldwide awareness of the activities of the bearers of light. Recognize that these force fields exist on the physical plane, even beyond the spectrum of the five senses, and yet still in the physical plane. They exist on the astral plane and in the mental belt. They exist on various planets, moons, asteroids in this solar system and beyond. They are centers of computers that are linked with the spaceships and spacecraft, and that are linked with their tools in embodiment, who themselves know not that in their gathering of information they are connected to an entirely different level of information gathering apparatus, and therefore the law prevails that those at each level in the service of the hierarchy of the fallen ones in reality know not whom they serve, and therefore they may believe in the current philosophy, the political ideal, the ideal of the taking over of the world, that all men might live forever in peace, and yet they are serving a gigantic death machine whose technology is far beyond the principles of current science and even those of Nikola Tesla. Understand then that we unveil these conditions to give you a glimpse of that which is occurring, because your momentum has increased to that level of efficiency where such exposures as we bring forth ought not to incite fear or anxiety, but merely a new determination. I will stand upon my watch. Realize that the beholding of the mighty I Am presence is the greatest scientific achievement of all time, that goes beyond all other discoveries that have ever been made, that will ever be made, or that are now even functioning in the highest technology of space travel. Realize that you are not behind the times, nor were the prophets of Israel, but you are ahead, for there is the incorporation in the sounding of the word, even in my word, through the voice of the messenger of the science of spirit and matter, whereby there does coalesce upon the ethers, upon the various belts of life, those thought forms of the immaculate conception of life, which are millions of seeds, as each word is a living seed multiplied and duplicated many times over, that the word of the messenger, of the prophet, and of their emissaries through the path of discipleship does bring to bear upon the physical universe those certain force fields which become literal cups of light, grids whereby the intensity of the all power of the mighty I Am Presence does activate the return to the Godhead, the return to the Christ consciousness, and the elevation of life. I tell you, the victory in the battle is to the victors over time and space, and you are indeed accelerating over time and space when you invoke the violet flame. And though it appears imperceptible, I tell you that your light bodies, your very living temples, are entirely different in this moment from those of other life waves upon earth who have hitched themselves to the entire conglomerate of the computerized systems of the world's mechanization man and the Nephilim consciousness. Blessed ones, there is a very real reason why the Lord God Almighty forbade the intercourse of the light bearers with the fallen ones, because it is the commingling of the body of death with the body of light. It is the commingling of the seed of the not self with the seed of Christ. And in that blending, in the intermarriage, there does come forth the half-breed that always contains the tie to the evil one, even while it is endowed with that light, and this ought not to be. You cannot fellowship with darkness and arrive at the point of light, and whatever the sacrifice, you must deem that your determination to be who you really are is greater than whatever temporary gain may come to you through economic or political association and interaction with these fallen ones. For when you bind yourselves to them, you immediately take upon yourself not only the weight of their individual darkness, but you take on the entire momentum of this interplanetary and intergalactic conspiracy. Therefore realize that to the sons of God is given the technique, and it cannot be stolen, it cannot be imitated, it cannot be mechanized, because it proceeds out of the fount of the threefold flame within your heart. And without that flame, and without the path of righteousness, and without the living tie to the living Guru, Sanat Kumara, there is no effectiveness in the use of the science of the spoken word. They cannot, with all of their technology, set forth the antithesis of the use of the science of the word. No amount of computers, no amount of intelligence, no amount of files will yield them dominion over your mighty I Am Presence. I tell you, if you will contemplate the tapping of the energy of the core of the planet as able to sustain the entire world, and it can, you must contemplate that the greater power of your own mighty I Am Presence multiplies the power of the heart of the earth by infinite numbers, incalculable numbers in this sphere, that you have a direct sine wave to the mighty I Am Presence to draw forth and tap all energy you require for the victory of the earth. Your mighty I Am Presence is able to deliver through your heart and the science of the spoken word that which is needed to expose and remove from North America every agent of the Dark Ones, every agent of the Soviet Union, every agent of the capitalist conspiracy. Why is it not so? Why did the prophet cry? Why do you show me these things of treachery, these things of violence? And why is nothing done? Why are the people caught in the drag and the net of the fallen ones? I will tell you, it is because when you offer the dynamic decree, you must be absolutely concentrated in the point of the vision of that for which you call. And it is the mind coupled with a heart, the clear mind, the clear seeing eye, and the fervent heart of absolute love and reverence for life. This arcing in your being of the center of the crown, the center of the third eye, and of the throat chakra, and of the heart must be synchronized, and therefore we have recommended to you in this conference your application to the study of prayer and meditation, specifically that meditation whereby you are centered and not distracted, and not indecisive, and not fearful, and not doubtful, but absolutely one-pointed. I tell you, you can feel when you are in that point of centering by the action of the clear channel, where you can feel in your being nothing between you and your mighty I Am presence. You may visualize this as a clear tube of light, a clear channel of communication, where you know in your heart, you know in your soul, you resonate in your chakras that the Father hears the voice of the Son hears the voice of the Father, and there is that contact whereby the word comes out of spirit, flows through the spoken word, is released by the fire of the heart, is sent in perfect direction upon its course by the vision of the all-seeing eye of God, and contains within itself the Logos, the divine intelligence, to accomplish its work. Let us no longer be naive. The forces are bent on absolute world control and the destruction of the world soul. They even plan not to destroy the physical fields or the physical people, but they desire to destroy their souls, and this is their goal. So often are the exposures made, and the people have the wrong sense of helplessness. The helplessness of Christ crucified upon the cross is lawful. The helplessness of the self-conceived, self-condemned sinner groveling before the Nephilim altar is a false helplessness. You must understand that the fusion of the Son in this temple and the Father in the mighty I Am presence is accomplished with the understanding of the all power of God, and yet for the very fact of the fusing, there is the helplessness of the soul that waits upon the Lord and is the instrument of the Lord's activation, the transparency that declares, I of mine own self can do nothing, it is the Father in me who doeth the work. The transparency of the glass, the transparency of this drop taken out of the ocean of God's being, that now becomes the magnifier of the infinite being of the Father with the Son, dwelling bodily within that sphere that is the soul. Thus always the miracle of the finite, fragile vessel, the very fragile thread of contact, being the instrument for the all-power of the cosmos. Only those who are balanced, sane, and in the center of the cosmic cross of white fire can experience the all-power and in the very same instant function as so-called normal human beings. That is why the teachings of the Great White Brotherhood may not be misused or perverted by the ego-centered individuals, the fallen angels, the serpents who bring with them their roving bands of demons, and immediately upon contact with this law proclaim, "I am God." And this is the religion of Satan. This is the pumped up and the trumped up pride. It is the folly of Lucifer mounting to the heights of heaven and declaring himself as co-creator with God. You must understand that there are those who declare themselves to be Christed ones long before they have ever really made contact with the living Christ self. Nevertheless, we advocate the affirmation of absolute truth where you are, so long as you can understand, not I as the lesser self, but God in me doeth the work, not I but God in me, not I but God in me, until that God in me replaces the I that speaks, and there is truly the presence of the infinite God and no longer any trace of the lesser self, and yet there is always maintained in the temple of the soul the stature of humility, the stature of maintaining the holy office, of being the servant of the body of God, the servant of Christ in that body. Let all then pluck away from consciousness those fine hairs that are residual of self-assertion, that which is capable of being offended or irritated or angered or aroused emotionally. That is the asserting self that considers itself to be God. And it is God in the Nephilim sense of the word. It is the most dangerous condition of the human consciousness anywhere upon the planetary body, because it is the omnipotent one, psychologically speaking, the soul that has tasted the blood of the gods and no longer will submit to the great Guru. I preach to you this truth of the word and the necessity for your obedience to the living flame and to the light, because from our causal body proceeds the science of spirit matter fused, which can deliver to you powers undreamt of that allow you to be the channel of the Godhead for the turning around of this world. I tell you, so entrenched is darkness in North America alone that you and I could almost weep for the state of the land, and weep the more because the people themselves do not know just how much their nation has been taken over. Do you know that these fallen ones are so insecure in the cosmos without the mighty I Am presence that they actually believe that by the amassing of information on everything, satellite information, information on technology, computers, weapon systems, and the entire defense complex, that only in that immersion in information will they be able to conquer the body of light? Well, I tell you, they may march only so far with their information. What they lack is the ability to transcend their own spiral, and all of the intelligence of the entire world will not afford them the means to the victory. But I tell you what will give them the victory. It is the fear and doubt of the misuse of the light of the Lord Jesus Christ under the Piscean dispensation. It is the fear of the people of the KGB that will cause them to lose the battle. It is not the actual strength of the KGB, which is not before the mighty I Am presence. It is the indecision of the leaders of the people today, perverting the line of the mother under the hierarchy of cancer. That indecision will give to them the victory, not their own strength, which is not under the mighty I Am presence. It is the loss of vision of the people, perverting the dispensation of the hierarchy of Scorpio through their own selfishness, self-indulgence, which leads to the sense of futility. And it is futility, hopelessness, helplessness, by a generation surfeited in self-indulgence that will give them the victory. The rationale is to continue to eat, drink, and be merry, for surely the day will come when the Soviets take us over. And therefore there is a paralysis on the part of the fallen ones of North America, who lack both the spine of the mother flame and the heart of the avatar to do anything about this equation. They lack the indwelling fire to rise up and be that God who is a consuming fire. I tell you, beloved hearts, by way of your own personal self-assessment, that the fire you kindle in the giving of your dynamic decrees has brought about more to stay the hand of the fallen ones than any other effort on the planetary body, bar none. You must once and for all come into the sense of co-measurement of the power of the Word through you, and become more scientific in the use of your 7 centers, which are the all-powerful, all-knowing force fields of God. You may envy the science of the fallen ones, but God has given to you the entire science contained within your own body temple, if you will but use that vehicle. Through the vehicle you have, by the application of the law, you may transcend time and space. Like jumping into the air while the bullets fly beneath your feet, you simply are not there, and you cannot be made a target. Consider then, if all of this advanced weaponry of the Soviet Union be true, and some of it is, consider then why the light bearers have not fallen, why there has not been the elimination of those who are known to carry on this teaching, this word, and this science. You must realize that it is no altruism on their part and no mere magic on ours, but it is a scientific fact that every atom and molecule of your physical, mental, emotional, and etheric being is not only accelerated, but put in the inviolate dimensions of God when you decree. When you call forth your tube of light, it is not merely a shaft of light around you that protects you. You become the tube of light. You become a vibrating force field of energy that in the whirling center throws off and repels from every single cell and atom that which is harmful. You have no idea what you have escaped by your diligence that other people have become burdened with, whether physical diseases, whether interference with the mechanism of the brain or the nervous system. I tell you that the warfare of yellow rain has its counterpart in the vast uses of what has been called psychotronic energy. What you observe physically has already been duplicated astrally, and the unprotected souls of light have passed from physical embodiment, while those who have listened to the preaching of our word, lo, more than 20 years now in this dispensation, have thereby established themselves in a flame of regeneration that separates their entire force field from the decaying spirals of the world order. Many individuals who look upon your faces notice the light and the health. You have not been so ignorant to suppose that it is by the mere taking in of health foods or performing certain exercises. You may laugh, but others believe this. They simply reject the fact that spiritual light can be precisely where the matter matrix of the form is. Blessed hearts, it is not only the physical body which shines. In fact, the inner bodies shine even more. It is entirely a force field of light, more than the mere acceleration of a body. It is the sealing of spherical being as a whirling vortex of light. I tell you, every day, Russian psychics and scientists of the supernormal are seeking to find mechanical means to interfere with the increasing cycles of spirituality of the light bearers. The momentum of yesterday of the Chela on the path may not be adequate to today's challenge. They seek to penetrate far beyond the physical. Therefore, this impels your going higher and higher into the etheric octave until you literally walk the earth as a physical being, yet vibrating etherically. This is the meaning of a golden age. This is the meaning of longevity, renewal, life, and all the dreams that those caught in the death civilization dream of the sustainment of their life streams. It is because the etheric body and the physical mesh, because the physical is allowed to hold enough light to magnetize and begin the figure-8 spiral with it. You have already begun this. The vast majority of the people on the planet have not. And because they have not, they are on the other side where the physical body literally magnetizes the entire death body of the Nephilim, the entire collective consciousness of the karma of death. When you walk in the large cities, especially in certain areas, and you look at the people, you are astonished to see their faces, to see their vibration. They look already lifeless, without flame or fire. It is not merely because they do not decree. It is the entire momentum of the judgment that they are caught up in the downward spiral of civilization. You are on a rescue mission to seize from the torrent moving downstream, the souls of light caught in the death philosophy. There you must go as divers to take them out and bring them to that point of absolute God identification. The permanent atom of being is a mighty generator of life. Let us then pursue the vision and know that the time is come for the fulfillment of the prophecy made by Habakkuk, that the vision is sent, and it surely has come, and it is spoken, and you are hearing it, and therefore you become knowers, intelligent of the word. And the vision must be first and foremost of your mighty I am presence, for when your eyes are locked in the gaze of your I am presence and none other, then you see there is the current that descends. Then there begins to be woven the deathless solar body, which is in reality a duplicate force field of your own causal body, and each of these spheres contains the levels of manifestation, the precipitation of cosmic science for the dominion in all planes. Thus you graduate from the tube of light to the spheres of light, and you ought to invoke the descent of your causal body as the great law will allow, and as it is tolerable to your own system, your own individual solar system, so that you may have that in additional invulnerability in this octave. By the very nature of the fifth ray, our clearance of the planetary body penetrates all misuses of science. We are most concerned about genetic engineering, which touches upon the alchemy of the seventh ray as well, the seat of the soul chakra. We are concerned about those watchers, the fallen watchers, who have set their course for the destruction of life as God made it, and to establish the preference, even in the children of the light, to mechanically respond to orders, to direction from another source, because they are weary, all too weary, of the effort necessary to make a creative choice, a choice that leaps into the center of God, experiences his universe, and desires to bring it forth point by point. It takes intense love for the thrust of the rocket of the soul to arrive then at the point of the center of the I am presence. It takes an intense love to pull away from the magnetism, the very force itself, the desire in the lower octaves to go this way and that, out of the center of the life that is green, the life that is joy, the life that is God, the life that is sacred. Beloved hearts, it takes an immense effort to be a son of God, to be a co-creator with him. And when you do not make the effort, the alternative is to become mechanization man, to become mechanized, and therefore to respond to the commands of another who has set himself up as the impostor of your Christ self and the impostor of your I am presence. These impostors are on the astral plane. They do enter the subconscious, and they do convince souls of light that they are the supreme intelligence of their being, when they are merely extensions of the Nephilim gods. You must beware then, when you hear coming forth from a friend a declaration of independence, which is not a declaration to be independent in God, but to go the way of outer darkness. You must beware and understand how that soul in some way or another has accepted into the subconscious levels of being some computer mechanism, some tie to the fallen ones, which could even have occurred in a previous life. And it is the voice of the computer speaking, while the soul, helpless, believes that voice to be the true word of his own conscience. This is happening to light bearers in every nation. Take the figure of Fidel Castro, as he has become the voice of many who have abdicated to the gods of gold and silver, the gods that are idols, the wooden ones that have been covered over. They are the computers of this day and age, and they speak, and you can hear them speak. Twice now you have seen the clip of the footage of Castro declaring, "We are not communists or Marxists. We are a nationalistic movement for the people." I tell you, the very posture, the very stance, the very vibration of the voice ought to be known to you as the sign of the inner computer that has already taken him over, and he stands as the living computer commanding all around him to move. Beloved ones, you can realize that all that he has done, which is considered genius in the Soviet world, is the work of the giant computer that is behind him. You can see that the sons of God on earth in general have not mounted to the level of the mind of God to encompass that much world organization. Well, beloved hearts, that mind which was in Christ Jesus, which is yet in our messengers, is totally available to you to organize a mass movement of light bearers far superior to the Castro machine, far superior to the KGB and the entire Soviet complex at the international level. Do not allow yourself to in any way be intimidated upon the knowledge of the vastness of the lie, and do not become the worshipers of those who ensoul it. Above the plane of their vibration, I tell you, there is the level of the mind of Christ, your own infinite mind, your own inner being, who declares unto you hour by hour, "Draw nigh to me, and I will draw nigh to you." Yet in hearing these dictations, some of you still persist in functioning by habit at the level of the mental body, and you are not open then to that creative ingenuity, moment by moment, hour by hour, and you feel the impatience of God himself expressed toward you, often through the very mouthpiece of the messenger, rebuking you to stop being so dense, to come up higher, to sense the need of the hour, to act upon it swiftly, and you wonder why you do not. You must have a breakthrough, beloved hearts, by your own God determination. You must throw over that infilling of your temples with drugs and with chemicals of all types, interfering with the logical mechanism of your own infinite and scientific body of God. You must realize that it will take a fervent love, a consuming fire, and a God determination to reach that point of your own Christ consciousness, not by animal evolution, but by the divine solution, which is to enter the capsule and the sphere of your own causal body and live. You must demand it. You must command it. You must not take no for an answer. You must have the breakthrough for which you have been striving, and you must be the one who shatters the density that allows you to sleep when you ought to rise up and take dominion over this planet. The crystal ray emanates from our causal body also. The crystal ray has many properties which I shall not describe. Suffice it to say that inasmuch as all matter is crystal in the true definition of the word, the crystal ray is the ray by which the 7 rays penetrate matter. The crystal ray may take on the properties of any molecule, and by conforming to its pattern, deliver into the space between its particles, into its whirling energy sphere, the properties of the spiritual divine counterpart. The crystal ray comes forth from the sun behind the sun for the restorative purpose of returning your mind, your genes, your chakras, the activation of the life within you to its original strength and divine intent. Neglect not the gold of God, for the golden threads and the emerald green and the crystal light weave a pattern of harmonious reunion, whereby I proclaim, you shall have your God mastery, you shall have your God harmony, you shall have your God vision, and therefore you will rise above the morass of life, which is the astral plane. As long as a portion of your being dwells in that astral plane, you are vulnerable to all the misuses of science, of the enemies of the light on the planet, both east and west. And do not neglect the awareness that these enemies work against the light bearers right from within North America itself. It is the astral plane that must be overcome. Therefore we determined that this messenger should stay and work out her karma. At the hour of the ascension of the first messenger, her karma was at the 51% level. By reason of our determination that she should have the garment of the 51% level to demonstrate for you who would arrive at that level that the victory can be attained in a single life from that level. This is not to say that held in her own causal body was the prior achievement of levels beyond that point. But it is ever so with Christ to descend to the lowest levels and to put on the body, the karmic body of the people whom that Christed one serves. Therefore, the years of descent into the astral plane, as you understand this according to her teachings on the karmic clock, were spent in the registering in these chakras and vehicles of the dominion over the Nephilim gods in that level, so that in the hour of the victory, when the totality and the sum of light of the 100% could be delivered, you, beloved, could tie into that garment, that mantle, and that point of attainment, and realize it yourself, and you might become yourselves emissaries of the great silent watchers. For your own Christ self is the representative of the great silent watcher where you are, and you might have the overcoming victory in that astral plane. So it is given to every son of God who is crucified to descend again and again into those octaves for the rescue of souls of light and for the purpose of the strengthening. Therefore, when a fellow light bearer is momentarily submerged in the astral plane by all the momentums in the world today. Do not condemn, and do not allow that fellow servant to condemn himself, but point out the true reality of being for which the soul in truth has a preference. The soul uninfluenced and uncontaminated by the misuses of science naturally adheres to the great central sun magnet of being, for the soul itself is extended into the matter sphere by the crystal cord. It has ventured forth to penetrate the octaves. It is the polarity of the spirit. It is the child that is never cut from the umbilical cord's tie to the source. Thus you are suspended, and you must move from the sea of water to the sea of fire. Living where you are, your safety is to live in the etheric matrix. This is my all-prevailing message. This is my heart's love for you. This is our comfort. This is our assurance that you can keep on pressing on, even in the very midst of such international intrigue, even in the midst of betrayal, even in the midst of those circumstances where those who have no knowledge that they are tied at inner levels to the KGB will take the role of agents of disinformation, will publish abroad in the newspapers stories about the messenger, the leaders, the chelas, and the organization itself that have no resemblance to fact whatsoever. The game they play has no honor. It is dirty as the astral plane is dirty. You might point to those who have betrayed and say, why, they have no such allegiance to world communism. The beast by any other name is still the beast, just as the rose remains in every language. Those who deny the living word are atheists by their fruits. Those who move against the body of light are in the false hierarchy by their fruits. Those who further the cause of world slavery and tyranny by their actions against the God of freedom, Saint Germain, and his entire movement, they then are aligned ipso facto with world communism as every much as its agents as those who are trained in Moscow. Let us open our eyes and see how those who have misused the press against the light for centuries are a part and parcel of the same force, and they must not be dealt with sympathetically. When you have sympathy for these fallen ones' beloved hearts, you have taken your giant step to the side of darkness. Understand that the white firelight never gives of itself to heal the deadly wound of the beast, but the dragon that gives it power heals its deadly wound by black magic until the hour of the Lord's appearing. In the name of Sanat Kumara, we now intensify the action of our causal bodies. emerald fire, golden light, crystal ray, and the flow of the ruby ray through it, and the entire earth is suspended in our force field. And this will produce, beloved hearts, unmistakably further exposure, and therefore at times further turmoil and fear and further indecisiveness and blundering and bungling of the divine plan. Exposure will intensify people's own awareness of their own selfishness and their own pursuit of the pleasure cult. Stand guard, take thy watch, listen for the inner sound, look to the hills and the mountains of God for the oncoming vision. Be the instrument of its speaking. Take this information, combine it with the certain word of prophecy. Preach to the light bearers, raise them up, for they are a mighty people who know not their own inner light or inner might. They are a sweet people, containing the tender mercies of our God, though often misplaced. Oh, beloved hearts, I trust it has not escaped your notice to see the cunning seduction of one who was the instrument of the great whore, recruiting spies for the Soviet Union. I trust you realize that in the physical presence of this woman, you might also have befriended her. Thus it was the very same personality of the fallen angels called the serpents in the mythological Garden of Eden, which was an actual experience of original twin flames on earth. Your judgment ought to be no more harsh on Adam and Eve than it is upon your own self, for your own sympathy in listening to the serpent's solution to the human equation. So long as you are not astute enough to reject all of the lies they have propounded in all of the areas of human endeavor, you may consider then and have compassion upon those original souls who thought that they had discovered emissaries of God to provide the solution to world problems outside of the school of Maitreya. The Garden of Eden was an initiatic school. Thus, you can see the rationale. Inside the community of the Holy Spirit, we will have the pure teachings of the ascended masters. But these do not work outside of our community, and therefore we will have to have a little bit of socialism here, a little bit of the welfare state there, a little bit of abuse of human life for the betterment of all, a little bit of compromise here, a little bit of dishonor, and even dishonesty that some of you yet allow in your private businesses because you deal with the world and you say, well, the world is dishonest, and I am doing this for the sake of the glory of God, and therefore I will also employ the means of the world. Dear hearts, you cannot afford to be in that compromise of the Holy Spirit line. You cannot afford to take that stand that when proposing solutions to the planetary body, you leave off from the command of Lord Maitreya. You cannot eat of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil and espouse a relative standard for one aspect of your life and an absolute standard for another. It has never worked, and all of these thousands of years should have proven to you who are the seed of Sanat Kumara, that the compromise does not work. The all-seeing eye is a single eye. The two-eyed vision takes in the analysis of this octave, but the solution is single-eyed and single-purposed. I trust you will decipher my word, rightly dividing the word of truth, rightly breaking the bread of life, rightly sharing the light of Christ, but never compromising. And if sometimes you cannot understand the way to go because the dilemma is so great, you do after all have the embodied teacher and close advisors who may counsel you by a greater advantage of experience in this and other lifetimes. You are not left alone to make the decisions that can take you from the course of your ascension for this lifetime. As you know, the fifth ray governs the abundant life, the law of supply and demand, the money system. By the authority of this ray, you challenge the misuses of that light by the Federal Reserve Board, by the international bankers, by the Congress, and by the economists. Therefore, realize that surrounding the very element of gold in the earth is the antithesis of it, which is human greed, which scars the vision and deprives you of the victory on that Scorpio line. Remember, I said, you must have the victory in Pisces, Cancer, and Scorpio to be entrusted with power. Power is energy, power is light, power is supply, and it is the money that you need to accomplish your divine plan, so long as you see it as the instrument of God. I tarry with you because my ray has so many implications for the lowering of the city four square and the building of the inner retreat. Therefore I desire a saturation of your four lower bodies and your souls, that within your own heart you may experience the mastery, harmony, and vision for your life from this hour to the hour of your ascension. Let the virgin birth of the man-child within you, O my beloved, appear as the descending star of your own causal body, as Alpha above, Omega below, fuse, and you stand forth, the living Christ, born of the Father, Mother, God. I seal you in the hour of the crystal ray, the hour of the crystal ray, the hour of the crystal ray.